during the meeting, let you know.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. We are going to go ahead and get our meeting started. I believe we're live. Appreciate you all being here tonight. It's a pleasure to have you joining us both in person and virtually. It seems a little odd that we're still in a pandemic, and we're still having to wear masks and social distance. Hopefully, this will be coming to an end soon, and I, for one, would look forward to that. At this time, we're going to ask Pastor Wesley Morris, if he would, with Oswald Baptist Church, to provide us an invocation, which will be followed by our pledge.
Let us pray. Father, we bow before you today. We thank you for the opportunity we have to call upon your name one more time. We thank you for life and strength, a beautiful day you blessed us with. Lord, we thank you for our community and all those that are a part of our community. And Lord, we pray that you'd continue to add your blessings on the town of Troutman. And Lord, we pray that you'd bless the meeting tonight. God, we pray that you'd bless those that are the powers to be to make decisions for the future, the present and the future of our community. Lord, bless this meeting tonight. Most of all, we thank you for your son that died so that the whole world could be saved. We ask all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I think it's a requirement in town hall. Thank you. At this time, council, you have your agenda in front of you. We will continue to proceed along our agenda. I believe Kim sent out the most updated agenda, and we will move forward with our agenda as presented. Council, I will ask if there are any amendments to tonight's agenda.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion under the consent agenda, item number 4, that we push the annexation request hearing back to the December meeting. And item 8, that we remove that amendment for the wastewater agreement for approval or consideration at November's meeting.
Okay, that would be item 4, as well as item 6 to December. Is that
No,
correct?
item 8.
Oh, just 8. Okay. Item 8.
Excuse me, what, item 4, you wanted it moved to when?
December,
December.
yes, pushing it back 1 month.
Okay.
Gary, I would just ask, are we legally in order? Just changing the date as it's presented on the consent?
I think I heard two different things. One was push the hearing date back to December, and the other was push the whole thing back to December, so I'm not sure which one it is.
I said push the hearing date back to December's meeting.
You would leave 4 as it is.
We're leaving it on the consent agenda,
Right.
but just pushing the meeting, the
Date.
hearing meeting date back to December.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And moving item 8 to consideration at the December meeting.
November.
Excuse me, November meeting. Okay,
And that's November 11th.
November 11th.
Can I just ask a clarification on, so item number 4, Troutman Logistics is being moved to December, is that correct?
The public
Public
hearing,
hearing.
public hearing is being
For the
moved to
annexation and
December
the
meeting.
rezoning?
For a vote.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, subject to vote, of course. That's my motion.
Okay, the annexation is staying, but you want to move the public hearing to December.
We're leaving
It's
the
all
consent
part of it,
agenda.
yeah.
We're just
Okay.
moving the hearing date back to
Okay.
December.
The
Okay, I
annex,
just wanted to be clear.
yeah. Any other question or comment?
You're not moving the whole item 4.
The whole item
No,
4
I don't have to
and
move
the
it.
annexation request moves to hearing date for December, I don't know what the date is, December,
Oh, wait a minute, I'll check. Sorry,
10th?
November 9th.
not November.
Oh, I'm sorry, December 10th. It's December 9th. I'll get it right in a
Okay.
minute.
Again, just to make sure, we're leaving the request, item 4, under the consent agenda. I'm simply making the motion that we move the hearing, the public hearing date, to the December meeting.
How you doing that?
Where-
That was
number-
suggested,
So,
My
so,
understanding
so,
from town attorney.
so what we would end up doing is putting this item on the consent in November with the hearing date of December 9th.
We wouldn't do the annexation before the hearing.
No,
Okay, that's what I thought I was hearing there.
yeah. Is that accurate, Gary? Or we would just,
It sounds like to me what you're doing is the part about the resolution directing the clerk to investigate a petition, approval of certificate of sufficiency, and the adoption of the resolution fixing a public hearing date, that all stays on to mine.
Right.
It's just the only thing that's changed is where it says November 10, it would say December something.
that is correct.
December 9th.
December's meeting date.
Yeah.
Regular meeting date.
Are we good with that?
I'm good with the motion.
Okay,
I'm good with that.
all right, we clear, okay.
I'm
So,
finally clear with
yeah,
that.
all right, there's a motion on the floor to change the, setting the public hearing date of item number 4 to December 9th, and item number 8, moving that for consideration, the approval of amendment to the town of Troutman, Idaho County Children's Hope Alliance wastewater agreement to the November 11th meeting. Is there a second to the motion?
Is that, it's only one motion? It's not one for 4 and one for 8?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
we can
All
cover
We
one
make them
motion.
separate motions?
I made
Yeah.
it the one motion, well, one motion covering both items.
That's right. Do you want them separate?
I would.
Okay. All right. Do you mind separating your
No,
motion?
sir, I do not.
Okay, so we'll handle item 4 first, which is the changing of the date for the public hearing of the annexation request to December 9th. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion's on the floor, received a second. Any other question or comment? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Any opposition?
Opposed?
Okay, motion passes. The next item is the removal of item 8 until November 11th, and that's the wastewater agreement. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
I have November 11th. Was it November 11th?
Yes, sir.
Okay, November 11th.
I'll second that.
Let's see.
The 11th is a holiday.
Yeah, we moved the, remember, your schedule says one day earlier
Okay,
on Wednesday.
so it's going to be Wednesday, the 10th of November.
Okay,
Who said
still
that?
second.
Still second this.
Still agree with your motion? All right, motion's on the floor, received a second, November 10th, for consideration of that agreement. Any question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Now we will approve our consent agenda with the changes of item 4 and item 8. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Motion is made to approve the agenda with the items that we address, item 4 and 8, Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made, received a second. Any other question or comment? Okay.
This is just for the consent agenda, correct?
Just for the consent.
Okay.
Just for the consent. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We will now handle the approval of the overall agenda. Are there any, and I'm backing up a little bit, so are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make the motion that item 12 and 13 under old business, that we continue, this is in regard to the Weinkauf Village annexation and rezoning, that we continue that until December's meeting.
December 9th.
On a question, Mr. Mayor?
Question?
We've postponed this now, am I correct, Lynn, approximately 6 months?
Yes, I believe this went before the planning board in June, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, so my question would be, we postponed it 6 months, and now we want to postpone it another month and a half, too. What seems to be the problem, why they're not ready to come to the table with this?
It's my understanding that they had to redo some of the site plan due to some floodplain that they were not aware, some wetlands that were on the site. And now DOT has made some recommendations to Weinkauf, some widening. So I think they're just trying to see if they can make their site plan work. And I think that's where they are at this point. So they're just asking for more time to try to work through some of those issues.
And could I ask you your personal, not your personal, your opinion as our planning director? Is this a good thing to postpone it, or should we just take it off until they can get their ducks in a row?
Either way, we are continuing to re-advertise it, which, except for in the newspaper, excuse me, the main reason for deferring it is so the town does not have to re-advertise in the newspaper, so it saves us money. But we are sending out notices to adjoining property owners because we feel like that's the right thing to do. So we have been doing that.
Thank you. That answers my question. Thank you,
So
ma'am.
the question I have is, at what point do we say it needs to go back to planning and zoning and start again?
That's an excellent question. I think if they bring back a site plan that's significantly different, then we would need to take it back to the planning board. At this point, that has not happened. And this, also at the planning board meeting, from what I understand, there wasn't a lot of opposition or controversy. So I feel at this time, moving forward with it, it is still a good thing. If we do get a site plan and we feel like it's got significant changes to it, we will recommend that go back to the planning board.
Okay, thank you.
Great, so there's a motion on the floor to accept the agenda with the removal of item 12 and 13. Any other changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask for a second.
Second.
Motion received a second. Any other question or comment? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We will follow down our agenda now that we've gotten that out of the way. The next item on the agenda is, I can get my paperwork together. Public comment, asked that,
No, we got to
I'm
approve
sorry.
the consent agenda.
that's right. No, we went through, yeah, we approved it.
I thought we approved just those changes. My fault.
Yeah, we did.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's just very confusing so far.
That's all right. We'll do public comment. Public is invited to address the town council with comments or concerns. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per individual. Speakers are required to sign in at the podium and are required to adhere to policy 51, which is titled Policy Governing Comments from the Public at Town Meetings. The public comments can be received also by mail here at Town Hall. Can also be emailed to our town clerk at kdavis at troutmannc.gov or during the live stream chat. We ask that no more than 350 characters be submitted. And we can also receive emails up to 5 p.m. the day of the meeting. At this time, I'll ask the clerk if she's received any comment. Okay. Michael, any comment? Okay. Anybody in the audience want to approach council? Please state your name and please sign in.
Signed in. My name is Nicholas Jarzynski. I'm a resident here in Troutman. There's a couple of things that I wanted to, I don't know if maybe they've been brought to attention in the past. One thing I've been witnessing very recently is the growing traffic here in Troutman is becoming an issue with all the 18-wheelers coming through town. The intersection at Old Murdoch and 21 seems to be becoming a very congested issue with semis coming and going from both sides, unable to make right-hand turns and blocking the road. This morning alone, semi sat in the middle of the road for 10 minutes as vehicles drove around it and caused nearly head-on collisions, waiting for a semi to make a left-hand turn out of there. I have contacted the Logistics Center distribution director, and he is open to putting in no right-hand turn signs or finding out what the town could do to assist with that if he needs any approval to make sure that no trucks make right-hand turns outside of the facility onto Old Murdoch Road. He also offered some suggestions that no right turn be placed at 21 and Old Murdoch for vehicles larger than 3 axles, and it also be enforced by the local police department. He offered that it's not a state road, that it's either a county or town road, that there be a weight limit be put on it so that the semis can't facilitate Old Murdoch Road for their travel plans. They have access out Murdoch Road for exit 45. They have access directly to Murdoch Road. They don't have to even get on Old Murdoch Road for anything that they do. And he said that it offered the solution that putting weight distribution or weight limits on it and being enforced would very quickly stop the semis from using that, facilitating that road in order, because I guess they don't like those tickets. One other thing that I wanted to bring to attention is the mandates and the things kind of that I'm witnessing from the public that I speak with is the growing crime rate of break-ins, vehicle break-ins, and just minor mischief crime in the area. It seems to be that it's teens and unrested children that don't have anything to do. The council has removed all activities from these children, like the trick-or-treat and other things that they were doing to kind of interact with the community and sustain their social aspect. Now they're suffering with what I would be witnessing as mental illness, as I have children in the age brackets. We can attend football games, 80,000 people put in a fishbowl. They don't really seem to be concerned with vaccines or masks when they do that. We can attend baseball games or any other sporting event that doesn't seem to be controlled by the council sitting in front of me, and nobody seems to be concerned with vaccines or masks or any mandates for that matter. But we come in here and we can't even sit in here in a public forum and be able to be allowed to sit in here without being forced to wear a mask, regardless if we have a medical condition that exempts us from such. I think that those kind of oppressive actions are causing some of the rising crime rates that we have today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir? Yes.
Thank you for your comments. Council will take those under consideration. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you. I think some of those we may address later on during comment period, but we appreciate it. I said some of your comments may be addressed during our comment period.
Okay. Thank you.
The next item is our standing reports. First is from our Troutman Fire Department, Chief Reverend Pastor Morris.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. A couple things just to let you know what's going on around the fire department over the past 3 months is, last week we took delivery of 2 brand-new apparatus that will be getting equipped. We're in the process now of getting those equipped. It is a new engine, or I guess pumper tanker rescue pumper rather, would be the one apparatus, engine 1, and then we received a 2,000-gallon tanker as well, and those have been on order for a little over a year, but that is the build time, and now we're waiting, like anything else, to get all the equipment in, which that's difficult to get in these days that we're living, as well as get them put on the truck. We're hoping to have those things, have the truck in service. There's several different things that goes, it's kind of like putting a puzzle together as far as getting things mounted on the truck, but we're hoping to have those 2 pieces of apparatus in service within the month. Not only that, we had 8 of our full-time personnel that completed a 120-hour technical rescuer class certification. That is a state certification, is good for us. It's kind of a general rescue class so that they can begin to get more of the specialty rescue things. It's good for us. We've got to maintain by the state so many certified rescue technicians to keep our heavy rescue certification, and so that helps us. We do have a vehicle rescue class planned for next week, and that'll be taking place. It'll be a week long, and it'll be taking place over at our training facility at the CATS facility as well. We have hired, made job offers. They've accepted 3 new positions that's going to fill us the vacant positions that we've had. And so we've got those. They're planned to start on work. Their start date is going to be October the 25th, and that'll bring us up on our full-time staff to where fully staffed for the positions that we have offered. I don't really have anything for our Station 3 project. We're still waiting on drawings from the engineer to get all that done so that we can proceed forward with the upfit of Station 3. Otherwise, things are running along smoothly when I left this afternoon, and hopefully it'll be that way when I get there in the morning. Other than that, thank you for your support. Any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Great. Any questions for Chief?
Yes, what is the number I can call to set up for the tour?
704-528-4576. That'll be Station 1, and call anytime. You're welcome to come.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Good. Things look good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is our Troutman ABC quarterly report from our ABC Board Chairman, Mr. Getzinger.
Good evening, Mayor, honorable council members, town staff, fellow citizens. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight on behalf of the ABC Board and General Manager Evelyn Walls. Evelyn couldn't be with me tonight. She had some of pressing business to take care of, one which is putting together an order for our next truck, which will be in here on Wednesday. It's amazing, just speaking of that we're getting orders now that are larger than what we got as our initial order to put liquor on the shelves. I mean, things have continued to grow. I think I told you when I was here in August that we were starting to see a little bit of a tapering off in April and May, but in June we could see an uptick. So I felt like that going into the new fiscal year we would see some positive momentum, and as it turns out, I was right. In July we had a 9.4% increase over the previous July. August was 25% increase over the August before, and September was 31% over September of last year. We had, so for the first quarter, we had $744,051 in sales, and that compared to last year when we had $614,000. in sales. So we had literally 130,000 increase over first quarter last year, which is a 21% increase. Our first quarter net profit was $63,729, and that's after distributions. And then compare that against first quarter last year, it was $39,400. So we had a $24,283 increase over first quarter last year in profits, and that is a 62% increase over last year. Our operating expenses are tending to be about where they have been, around $28,000 a month. It was up just a little bit slightly over first quarter last year, but it's based on the revenues that have been generated. That would be, some of those costs would be attendant to that. I wanted to interject, I failed to mention when I started, we do have a signed contract on a piece of land for a second store. Because of some housekeeping issues that we have got to take care of, I would like to keep that location, the exact location, to ourselves for the moment, but it is out in the exit 42 corridor, out on the other side of 42. And as soon as we have that piece taken care of, town manager Wyatt we're working with him on that to get that taken care of, and I believe Lynn and Andrew will be brought into the mix to make that happen as well. It's not a rezoning so much as it is a transfer of jurisdiction. And then there are other housekeeping issues that will have to come before y'all as far as rezoning and things of that nature for us to be able to go to closing. Going back to the numbers, as a reminder, we budgeted $2,362,000 as our revenue for this coming year. The number that I reported to you a while ago, $744,551, that's 32% of that amount. So we're already a third of budget after the first quarter. And that right now, if this performance were to hold steady as we have for the first 3 months, we would be looking at bumping up against $3 million in sales. And I think I mentioned to you in August when I was here that while we budgeted 2.36, I felt like 2.7 was the number that we realistically could expect. And at this point, I don't want to move off of that number. I'm very hopeful and would like to think that 2.96 or that 3 million number is going to be something that continues. And right now, don't see anything easing off this month. It's certainly started out just like the other months have, so we would be looking at probably somewhere in around the 250,000 revenue range for the month, unless the bottom falls out between now and 31st. The budgeted profit for this coming year is approximately $200,000. We've budgeted right at $100,000 for distributions, which is the mandatory distributions to the town and its entities, as well as the law enforcement and DACI, right? I've always pronounced it DACI. It's Drug and Alcohol Coalition of Iredell. And I am happy to report that as of this distribution, which I've already given Mr. Mundy the checks for the distributions for the town and its appointed, the law enforcement and the parks, we'll mail the checks to the library and the schools. we have now presented back to the town $205,769. Only half of that has actually physically come to the town. The other half has gone to the identified recipients that the town has identified over the period of time, which, but based on the town buying the lot, which enabled us to actually get into business, that was the snag from the beginning, was that we were struggling trying to figure out how we were going to make that number work. We can't call it a loan, we can't call it a gift, but the land can be referred to as a gift. But your investment has been realized, has come home after a little short of 5 years. End of November will be 5 years, so it will only hopefully get better from this point forward. And we thank you so much for that. We're currently at full staffing. We don't have you probably see the signs from time to time, but it's because we hire mostly part-time help outside of Evelyn. Folks, it's a little bit more of a turnover than what you would want to have, but we're at full staffing at this moment, and we don't have any full-time positions that will be coming online until we get a little bit closer into looking at the second store. And that is my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great. Any questions for Mr. Getzinger?
I just have one, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
It's not a question. I would just like congratulate you, your board, and your staff for doing a terrific job with giving back the money to the community as the parks, the police, the library, the DOSI. It's just great. That's $200,000 that we didn't have that are now going back to the community. Also, I stopped in the store about a week ago, and the place looks absolutely terrific. It looks like it's brand new, Leighton. The shelves are stocked, it's clean, and it looks brand new. I've been to other ABC stores in Mecklenburg, and the shelves are empty, and it doesn't look like our great store. And best of luck with the new store and the project.
Well, thank you for
But
that.
please let the board and Evelyn and your employees know that we really appreciate this money that they're making for our town.
Well, I'll be more than tickled to do that, and I will just tell you, and y'all would know this, and you in particular, that Evelyn is the reasons why the store does as well as it does, coupled with the excellent employees that we have that contribute to that on a day-to-day basis. But without her leadership, it would not happen in the manner that it does. And I think she does it with a style that allows for people to feel good about working there and making the contributions that they do. But I thank you for your comments.
And I'll second Andy's comments.
Thank you.
My own comment.
Any other?
The only thing, Eddie sort of touched on it when he said he was in other stores in another county. I've heard on the news that there has been a shortage due to the way the state, North Carolina, distributes their alcohol. So I was going to ask you, have you ran into any problems?
We have. I mean, we struggled like everybody else did, and here late we've been in a position where, well, I will just say this. There's been a transition at the ABC Commission where they let the new contract for their trucking and warehouse folks, which it turns out to be the same people that were there before, LB&B Trucking. But part of their contract was to implement a new software system. And I don't know how many people have ever been through a software transition. It's not an easy thing to do, but if you take your old system offline as you're bringing your new system online, you're just begging for all kinds of snafus that are going to be hard to deal with. And that's somewhat what we have been dealing with, is the distributors and the vendors, or the distillers. They are responsible. They own the liquor that's in the warehouse, so their job is to replenish it as it comes out. But when they get a report saying that they put in 300 cases and they still have 300 cases in the warehouse, but actually they have no cases in the warehouse, they don't know what to do. So they're not replenishing like It needs to be. A lot of those problems are being remedied, but it's not happening fast, and we've been in a place where we sort of realized that in order to be able to get a lot of what we needed, we had to order a lot more than what we wanted. And we knew that the point would come at some point where we'd get caught and get everything that we ordered, and we did on a truck not too long ago. We got about $110,000 worth of liquor, but we got the warehouse edition, and a lot of it is blown out of here because a lot of people are coming here to buy, and because they can't get it in Mooresville or they can't get it in Charlotte. I mean, we've got folks actually coming from Charlotte to buy from us.
Wow.
And it's a lot to do with a lot of things that they can't get. Now that I've told you this, it may very well turn around that we are one of those that's, getting caught now and without being able to get it. But we've been blessed. We were hurt for most of the summer, but right now we're starting to inch our way back, and I hope that everybody else is too.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Had to replace the chairman, ABC Commission Chairman, had to replace him.
Well, they haven't replaced him, but he did resign,
That's
and
what I'm saying.
yeah, I don't know the details behind that, but I think he
Kind of
just,
followed the snafus, so
well, someone has to take the fall when something this big, this is $1 billion business, and you just got to know what you're doing when you make decisions like that, I guess.
big titles and big salaries go with big
Yeah.
responsibilities.
Yeah.
Take the fall.
And that's why I'm glad y'all didn't have a lot of questions. After I went through this agenda adjustment, I had brain damage. I was sitting there thinking, holy cow, this reminds me of the Abbott and Costello, who's on first?
Who's on first? Yeah. Yeah, one last question, Leighton, and again, really appreciate, Eddie's comments. I think, Mr. Now really gave you a sense of what I think the council feels about the contributions and things that you've made to the community. I was going to ask a little bit about the supply chain issues, but on labor, you guys feeling good about the team that you have and fully staffed, everything good there?
Right now, yes. I mean, we've been lucky to be able to get some good people as people have left. So at our level, we're not experiencing the pain that others are experiencing. Now, and I think some of the problem they've got in Raleigh also is a labor issue. I think they're good with truck drivers of all things, because you hear truck drivers shortages all over the country, but the people that work in the warehouse, that has got to be a thankless job, because lifting all those cases of liquor all day long and loading pallets that are going out, that has not got to be an easy job. That's got to be a very tough way to make a living.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
The next item on our agenda is new business. And the first item is a annexation request, AX 2105, non-contiguous project name Speedway, applicant Big Daddy and Noni LLC, 2.71 acres. The PIN is 474-093-1943. Location is Charlotte Highway on Lexus Drive. I will now open this public hearing. Turn it over to Ms. Hare.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, as you stated, this is a request for annexation. The applicants are Big Daddy and Nani LLC. The property, as you stated, is located on Charlotte Highway. It's just south of the exit 42 interchange, and the property is approximately 3 acres. It's 2.71 acres. And I want to mention that this annexation is associated with the zoning case that we're going to hear after this.
All right, anyone from the public like to comment on this annexation request? Okay, hearing none, I will now.
I'm sorry. My name is Mark Zimmerman. I'm the Slate Civil Engineer representing the owners, so if anyone has any questions in regard to that, I just wanted to let you know I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Now that you're on the hot seat, any
Oh,
questions?
darn it, should have stayed seated. Yes, I did, yeah.
Any questions for the engineer? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will now declare this public hearing closed. Council, we will consider adoption of ordinance 1321 titled An Ordinance to Extend the Corporate Limits of the Town of Troutman, North Carolina, non-contiguous. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion and.
I'm sorry, Sally,
a
go ahead.
second. I'll let Sally have the motion and Eddie will take the second. Any question or comment? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. The next item is the rezoning request, RZ 2102, project name Speedway, applicant Big Daddy and Noni LLC, 2.71 plus or minus acres, pin 474-093-1943, location Highway, Charlotte Highway on Lexus Drive, Iredell County, general business and residential agriculture to Town of Troutman Highway business. I will now declare this public hearing open. Turn it over to Ms. Hare.
Mr. Mayor, as you stated, this is a rezoning. The property is located on Charlotte Highway. It actually sits between the Wendy's and the Bojangles. The current zoning on this property is Iredell County General Business. We did just annex the property, and that was the zoning that was on it in the county. What's being requested this evening is that a zoning classification of Troutman Highway Business be applied to that property. I do want to point out that this is a straight rezoning. It is not conditional. So one thing that we need to consider is that Highway Business District, any uses within that district will be allowed on the property once rezoned. I also want to point out that the Highway Business is very similar to the General Business District that it already is on it in the county. Again, here's just an aerial photograph that shows you the location of the property. This is the zoning map, the town zoning map. You can see that this property is currently surrounded by other properties that are either zoned highway business in the town or general business in Iredell County. The Highway Business District, as the Troutman zoning ordinance states, it's a zoning district that basically is established to provide for retail and service uses. This type of zoning typically has development that attracts people from other areas. So you'll a lot of times see this type of zoning along major interstates, along major roadways, because you're going to have your larger retail users there, such as Lowe's and your chain restaurants and those sort of things. This is our future land use map. We often make decisions based on our future land use map and plan. That map does show this property as interstate commercial. As you can see here, that is what this property is currently shown. Interchange commercial typically is located at interstates. It's near freeway interchanges, and again, it's very similar to our highway business zoning in that it is designed for your larger retailers and chain retail establishments. Staff is recommending approval of this request. Highway business fits in with the interchange commercial designation that's shown on our future land use map. The property is also currently surrounded by other highway business zone properties. The planning board did hear this request at their last meeting, and they are recommending approval based on the fact that it's consistent with our future land use plan map as well as the surrounding area. This evening, there's several options that the council has. We have put those before you so that you can consider those. One is to rezone the request as being requested this evening to highway business. Another is to rezone a portion. A third would be to rezone a combination of districts, to rezone to a less intensive district. To deny the request, you can also continue it or choose to table it to a specific date. That is the end of staff's presentation. I believe the applicant is here this evening. If you have any questions of myself or the applicant, I'm happy to address those.
Great, thank you, Ms. Hare. Any question for Ms. Hare or the applicant? Okay. Any comment from the public? Okay. I will now declare this public hearing closed. Council, we will now consider adoption of Ordinance 1421, titled an ordinance changing the zoning classification of the after-described property from Idaho County General Business and Residential Agricultural to Town of Troutman Highway Business. Is there such a motion?
I'll make that motion, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna give the motion to Mr. Harris and second by Mr. Hinkle. Any other question or comment? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We will now consider our adoption of statement of consistency. I would ask that you read the statement as prepared.
Okay, I'll make the motion that rezoning the highway business is consistent with the 2035 future land use map to allow appropriate highway-oriented commercial development at this location. The request is consistent with the currently adopted Unified Development Ordinance. The request is reasonable and in public interest as it proposes to allow commercial development in the areas of Troutman where it is appropriate.
Motion's on the floor. Is there a second? Second. Motion is made, proceeds a second. Any question or comment or statement? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item on our agenda is the rezoning request. RZ 2103, applicant is Superior Properties of Iredale, 1 plus or minus acres. Portions of pins 474, 093, 8470, and 475, 003, 1554. Location is Charlotte Highway 600 feet south of the intersection with Garden Center Avenue, from Iredale County Highway Business to Town of Troutman Highway Business. I will now declare this public hearing open. Ms. Hare?
I'm actually going to turn this one over to Andrew.
Great.
All right, thank you. I hope everybody's having a good night tonight. This request is pretty similar to what you just witnessed. It does have a little nuance to it. This is actually brought to you by the Town of Troutman. Superior Properties of Iredale is the owner. It is a portion of the two parcels Mr. Mayor had mentioned. It's located on Charlotte Highway, and it is adjacent to the Taco Bell. The current zoning on this one is none. It was previously zoned Iredale County Highway Business. Where this differs is this was requested as a release of jurisdiction from Iredale County, basically meaning the property owner came to the Town of Troutman and asked if we would take the jurisdiction from the county if the county released it and placed it into our ETJ. We said that's fine. The county went ahead and released it on August 17th. Therefore, the town has 60 days to assign a zoning designation to this parcel. And so the request in front of you tonight is to zone this property to the Town of Troutman Highway Business. Again, this map looks exactly familiar to the one Lynn just showed you. The subject property is located right here, approximately an acre. You got the Taco Bell to the north, Lowe's to the back. We're all familiar with the 42 interchange area. Again, this is a zoning map. It looks almost identical to what you just saw. Anything you see in beige or orange is either Iredale County or Town of Troutman Highway Business. And the parcel, well, the outline in red is currently not zoned, but it was Iredale County Highway Business, as I'd mentioned. Again, the Highway Business District is basically meant to attract business at intersection or interstate interchange locations, as Lynn had mentioned, retail, commercial, some light industrial. Again, the future land use map looks similar. It's interchange commercial. You can see it's all in pink, anything surrounding this. And once again, the interchange commercial is meant to for retail uses at or around interstate interchanges. Staff does recommend approval of this request. Highway business does fit in the interchange commercial designation, which is shown on the future land use map. The property is surrounded by other HB uses, and the property was previously zoned Iredale County Highway Business, which is consistent with what we're looking at tonight. Planning Board did recommend approval of the request, basically stating that it is consistent with the future land use plan map. And council options tonight are the same as we just had, as this is a straight rezoning. We can rezone the request to highway business, rezone a portion of the request to highway business. rezone to a combination of districts, rezone to a less intensive district, deny the request, continue the request, or we can table the request. And with that, I will open it up for any questions of myself.
I have a question that when it was advertised in the paper by Iredell County, it mentioned it as being a future site of a restaurant. Do you have any update on what that could possibly be?
Staff has not received any application for any development on this property, so at this time I have no update on what the intention or what kind of restaurant is going there, if that is actually the case. And I will mention that if this rezoning is approved and something does come to staff to be developed, we will be in front of you at that time to annex the property, because in order for the site to have town utilities, we will have to annex the property.
Oh, we didn't, when it came before us, I thought we did annex.
This is just a release to our
Well, they just released it
extraterritorial.
to us. We still have to officially annex.
That's right.
Okay.
Basically, we're just agreeing to accept it and zone it.
That is correct.
Any other questions for Andrew? Okay. Thank you, Andrew. Any comments or questions from the public? Okay. I will now declare this public hearing closed. We will now consider adoption of ordinance 1521 titled an ordinance changing the zoning classification of the after described property from Iredell County Highway Business to Town of Troutman Highway Business. Is there such a motion?
I'll make that motion to rezone as requested to highway business zoning.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made, receive the second. Any other question or comment? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We will now consider the adoption of statement of consistency. Please read the statement as you would like to make the motion.
Rezoning to highway business is consistent with the 2035 future land use map to allow appropriate highway-oriented commercial development at this location. The request is consistent with the currently adopted Unified Development Ordinance. The request is reasonable and in the This request is reasonable and in the public interest as it proposes to allow commercial development in areas of Troutman where it is appropriate.
Motion's on the floor regarding our statement of consistency. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made, receive the second. Any question or comment? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. The next item on our agenda is the annexation request, AX 2107, contiguous applicant project name, the Meadows of Troutman LLC, 1.367 plus or minus acres, portions of pins 474, 105, 4722. The location is Winecoff Street. I will now declare this public hearing open. Ms. Hare?
Yes, this is a request to annex a portion of property that's part of the Meadows of Troutman. If you all recall, the town approved a conditional zoning for that project. When that was done, that was also an annexation. The property that's located off Winecoff Street, when that annexation and rezoning were done, and then afterwards we began plan review, it was realized that there was a portion of that property that was not annexed. It's almost 1.4 acres in size. So the applicant this evening is just here tonight asking that this last parcel be brought into the town, just to clean up the property boundaries.
Great. Any question for Ms. Hare?
Then will this will legally take on the same additional uses
Yes,
as
sir.
the
That is
joint
correct.
property?
Yes.
Other questions? Okay. Any comment from the public? Okay. I will now declare this public hearing closed. Council, we will now consider adoption of ordinance 1621, titled an ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the town of Troutman North Carolina contiguous. Is there such a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Motion's on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made, receives a second. Any question or comment? Okay, hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We will now address our text amendment, TA 2103, to the Town of Troutman Unified Development Ordinance, digital billboards. I will now declare this public hearing open and turn it over to Ms. Hare.
Yes, this is a request being made to amend the Troutman Unified Development Ordinance. The applicant this evening is Canon Carolina Media, and what is being requested is that language be created to allow digital billboards in very specific geographical location or a corridor on Interstate 77. So just to give you guys a little bit of background, a digital billboard, it's a billboard that's used for advertising along interstates, highways, major corridors, and it utilizes changeable copy and digital LED technology, so it does differ from your typical static billboard. With this amendment, there's two articles that are being considered for changes, for amendments. One is Article 6. This is the article that talks about our signs and is basically our sign ordinance for the town. This is where the majority of the amendments are. And there are also amendments requested in Article 13, which is our definition section. So I just want to very briefly walk you through all of these changes. The first one is to Article 6.2.1, which is the table that defines types of sign and what zoning district they're allowed in. So we have identified digital billboards as being permitted in the highway business district only. The second amendment is to Article 6.2.2. This is our requirement table. This is where we specify the requirements for sign by type. What we are recommending is that digital billboards be allowed in the HB district only, that they be allowed only within 2,000 feet of the center line of I-77. So basically there at the interchange of 42, they would only be allowed 2,000 feet to the north and 2,000 feet to the south. We would also suggest that no sign support be allowed no further than 100 feet off of that I-77 right-of-way. We are requesting or recommending that a maximum sign size of 14 by 48 feet be permitted with a maximum height of 50 feet on these signs. We would also recommend that there only be one sign face per side of the structure with a minimum of 2 sign faces. Since you do see these going both directions on an interstate, they typically do have 2 sign faces. That's what we would recommend. We would also recommend that the maximum of 25 degrees of separation be between those 2 sign faces. And the last thing we would recommend is that we limit the number of these signs allowed to only 2 within this area that we are defining. This map will give you an idea of the 2,000 feet. It's not very easy to see on the screen, but there's a red line here on the map. This is 2,000 feet from the interchange of exit 42 to the north and to the south. And then this map on the right defines the area in terms of where these can locate based on that 100 feet off of the 77 right-of-way. Article 6.2.3 talks about additional requirements for signs. There's a lot of things here that we needed to add to make sure that these signs, if approved, were handled correctly. One of them is that we would suggest that digital billboards not be allowed to locate any closer than 75 feet from any adjacent commercial districts. This is something that was brought up by the planning board. They wanted to make sure that these signs weren't too close to other businesses. We are also suggesting that they be no closer than 5 feet from the DOT right-of-way. So they have to be 100 feet off of them and no closer to the actual highway itself. And then illumination. These things are bright. They're very similar to a TV screen. We would recommend that there be an automatic dimmer set to prohibit the sign from exceeding 7,500 candles during the daylight and 500 at night, basically from dusk to dawn. And then the third thing is additional limitations. We would recommend that these signs, they don't flash, they don't move, that basically that static position for each sign hold for 8 seconds. Also, we would suggest that these be designed to freeze in one position or basically just discontinue if there is a malfunction, so that there's nothing flashing that could distract drivers. We would also recommend, or we want to state that these can be used for on-premise and off-premise advertising. Typically, a billboard does advertise off-premise businesses, so we want to just make that very clear in the ordinance. Also, the applicant, we are suggesting that these signs have only 8 what they call changes. So in other words, there could be 8 different businesses advertised there. We would ask that one of these be reserved for town use, so that the town could use that billboard to either advertise special events that we're hosting, or we could allow some of our smaller businesses in town who may not have access to this type of advertising, that they could use that billboard as well. And that would be at the town's discretion. The sign does not prohibit the property owner where these billboards are located from erecting other types of signage that are allowed by ordinance. So for instance, if this sign were located on a piece of property where there's maybe a convenience store, that convenience store could still put up their wall signs, they could still put out their signs out front advertising their business. So we wanted to make that clear, so we wrote that into the ordinance as well. And then finally, we would just recommend that the owner of these signs either own the property where they're located or have an executed lease agreement with that property owner. Article 624 talks about sign illumination. We needed to make sure that this was added, that internal and external illumination was allowed for signs in the suburban commercial districts. And then section 333 talks about the construction and maintenance of these. We've added the word static here to differentiate between digital and static billboards. The intent of this section is to provide language that requires the removal of signage from abandoned businesses within 30 days. This would apply to static billboards only, not digital. And then Article 6.5, this is a section of the ordinance that lists signs that are prohibited in the town. We added the word static here. Billboards was one of the signs that was listed. That was new billboards only. We wanted to make sure that there is a distinction between static and digital. And then finally, Article 13, the definition section in our ordinance. We added a definition for static and for digital billboard, so it would be very, very clear what the difference was. The planning board did hear this at their September meeting. And at that meeting, after a presentation from staff and the applicant, they did recommend denial at a vote of 4-2. Staff has reviewed our land use plan and ordinances, and based on the land use plan's goal of focusing growth in key areas, staff would recommend approval. That is our presentation. The applicant is here this evening. If you would like to hear from him, I also would be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Great. Any questions or comments from Ms. Hare this time? Applicant here?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely.
My name is Chris Carney. Obviously, I'm here because we saw the opportunity, because so often we've been able to draw in attention to our area, and we've been able to do some different events. And the idea that trying to pull people to spend their money in our community is our goal. We want our businesses to thrive. And to be fair, static is just an old, outdated technology now. And so a lot of us wrote these ordinances back in the day. We wanted to keep our billboards out of our downtowns where, we want to keep that feel. The interstate, as we've grown out there, is a totally different world. And to be fair, this gives you an opportunity not only to make, they're much nicer, but their columns are made of stone. And then it gives us an opportunity to communicate to the public on behalf of our intentions as well, whether it be the beautiful parade that we throw for our veterans, or whether it be sometimes when we have the fair. And certainly, even back, some of you might remember, those of us in Rotary, we did the chili cook-off. We were trying to figure out how to get people to pull in, and it's just a difficult thing without messaging. And so technology has helped us with this. And so this is one of those cases where the time has come to update that. And to be fair, Lynn has been fantastic. And as you can imagine, we had to hand it off from Jonathan to Lynn. And she has, I think, even made it better as she got a hold of it. So obviously here to answer any questions you like. But pretty excited. I think it really jumps us up to be able to really help the business owners of our community. To be fair, I did take a look at the ones going down the interstate. And to be fair, if you go down, they are local. Langtree, the lake, all those guys are on those boards as you go south. So they really have done a lot to help those businesses, and I think they would tell you they've got a lot of bang for their buck out of them. So I appreciate your time, and certainly I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Question for Mr. Carney?
Yes, I got a question in that, and maybe either you or Lynn, the 2,000 feet, is that, why do we have that area that belongs to town? Is that in our ETJ or? Where we said it's, the center line is, they can go 2,000 north or south of the interchange. What puts that out there on the highway in our property?
The highway itself is not. The property around it, some of it is in our ETJ, some of it is in the town, and some of it is in the county. Not all of it is town property.
Because I remember, I went back to a couple of the planners and to see, the planning and zoning, to see why did they reject this? And it seems like one of the bigger issues was, if you look in that area, you're gonna put these digital signs will be almost right where we exit off the road. They're not too far from the exit. And the thought that they're gonna tell somebody to come to a chili cook-off or something in town, and they're going to slide off 2 lanes of road to get, it's not gonna happen. I mean, why are we not looking, I guess, to you, to go back up the road some?
We are, sir. That was a little bit of a...
That interchange.
Yes, sir. Commissioner, I appreciate you asking that question. I think that translation got a little bit outside with one of the particular members that's a former DOT employee, so certainly had a lot of knowledge of DOT. He was asking the question of, could you go in that area? Well, you're 100% right. You wouldn't go in that area because it doesn't make any sense. So that's why the 2,000 feet, that allows you to pull down the interstate. So really the idea was to give you the opportunity, actually to your exact point, to get further away from the interchange and allow for the sign to have more visual time.
Yeah, their point was that benefiting Troutman is not a benefit that it's sitting there because you're already at the last interchange of Troutman, and the other one, you're right on top of it. I mean, you should be coming off the road right there and shouldn't be reading flashing signs out
Yeah,
there.
so, yeah, it doesn't really go there. There really is a difference between what the state allows and what this particular plan, I think Lynn would tell you it allowed. The goal is to move the sign on the interstate, but to your point, I-77 has, what is the number, 75,000 cars. So it is quite a bit of people who use that every day. So it's a repetition as well, sir.
And I've seen digital signs, and I've never seen them like right at the that's what and I knew their concern was around the interchange, and as I go back and think of the ones I've seen going off over 40 or one in West Virginia, they have the sign, they're usually a mile or so back before you get near the interchanges.
I think there, if you look at, particularly let's just take Cornelius has several of them, or they've got one on each side coming either direction, so you can see those digital signs.
And they're right by the interchange.
Right there by the interchange.
Okay, I just know the ones I've seen haven't been, and that was a concern that our planning and zoning was like, they really don't benefit, because you can't make that, you're already there before you see some advertised.
Yeah, and the one by Langtree is, again, pretty close to the interchange there, if you go to the one at Langtree.
So you're right, Mr. Mayor.
And there is one in Statesville on exit, it's right there at a double exit, it's A and B, and it's right there at the exit, really,
49.
at 49, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Mhm.
I should give the number, shouldn't I, instead of
No.
just saying A and B?
No, that's all right.
And I'm not sure if this was covered, but it also allows for the automatic, our police force, if they need it, they can take it over at any moment and message if there's ever an emergency of some kind, they need to take it over. So that's always made available to them at any moment, and they get the full use of the sign for as long as the emergency is happening, whether it be a missing child or anything like that.
And then you'd be going to a property owner close within in that 2,000 range. You have to find a property owner to get a lease or whatever. Like, I guess the Sheets is coming way back here. I don't know where how far they go back, but I mean, you could actually get on their property and be within that range.
I won't speak for the Chiefs, but to your point, we would own or lease it within that corner, sir.
Any other questions for Mr. Carney?
Do you have any current signs near this area right now that you guys operate?
to be fair, I'm a local guy, so I went out and find a really great boutique company that does this. Matter of fact, one of the adjacent municipalities who's redoing their UDO asked the same person to come in and advise them on how to change theirs to be more, not prohibitive and but yet so restrictive. So, Brendan, Mr. Haynes, who came in, is, this is exactly what he does, and he does it all over our corridor, and most especially in everywhere from the East Coast. But he's still a smaller firm. That's why he puts in those things like smaller signs, and because we just realize we still want to keep our community something that we're happy with. So that's why you pick him instead of those big guys who just they throw up the big ones everywhere. So we want to keep it. It's about half the size of what it could be by DOT and state law.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So you're not going to be the owner of the signs?
We'll
Change
do
it.
it. We'll build it. I'm just his partner in it. Yes, sir. As a local guy, because that's all I need for it.
Questions? Okay. Any other questions from the public on this? Okay. Ask. All right. I will now declare this public hearing closed. Council, we will now consider the adoption of Ordinance 1721 titled Ordinance Amending the Town of Troutman Unified Development Ordinance. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to amend the UDO as requested, allow digital billboards per staff recommendation.
Okay. Motion's on the floor. Received a second. Any other question or comment? Okay. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
No.
Okay. One in opposition. Motion passes. We will now consider the adoption of a statement of consistency. Is there a statement?
Motion regarding consistency of this action, that the text amendments are consistent with the Troutman strategic plan and the future land use map as they align with the plan's focus and growth in key areas as part of its vision statement. The proposed changes are reasonable and in the public interest as they clarify procedures and conditions under which billboards are allowed.
Motion's on the floor regarding our statement of consistency. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made, receive the second. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition?
No.
One in opposition. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Carney.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And since it's done, your liquor store is running much better than Mooresville. I appreciate it.
Be careful, he may ask you for a digital sign out there.
He can have one, actually, sir.
Next item on the agenda is to consider a facade approval for accessory structures. DRB 2104, 697 North Main Street. Applicant is Detailed Image Collisions and Customs. I'll turn it over to Mr. Ventresca.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before we start, I want to acknowledge, unless I'm mistaken, I don't see the representative from the application, the company Desired Image Collision and Customs, here in the audience tonight. I know we had some discussion on this in the agenda briefing, so I'm fine going through the presentation and taking questions and then letting the board decide how they want to proceed if that's what we want to hear tonight.
That'll be fine.
Okay. Well, the location tonight is 697 North Main Street. The zoning on this property is highway business. The representative I've been dealing with, his name is Chris Ellis, and the request tonight is to allow for a metal non-residential accessory structure. Here's the site. It's located, Barium Lane is located to the north. Main Street is located to the east. It's right on the corner. What I have here outlined in green is the current locations of the accessory structures in question tonight. I put this definition here just for basically knowledge. It's a commercial accessory structure is a structure that is subordinate to and serves a principal use or structure. It is clearly subordinate in area, extent, or purpose to the principal use or structure served and is located on the same premises as the principal use or structure. That's basically, I just wanted to make that difference. We have a definition of a commercial accessory structure in our ordinance and not much more than that. The DRB is required to review and make a recommendation on the design of all buildings that are non-single-family residential. Town council is to make that final decision on the aesthetics of that building. Non-residential accessory structures are permitted in all commercial districts, but however, there are no guidelines in Chapter 3 of our UDO, which is the land use provision section. There are guidelines for residential accessory structures. Chapter 4 in the UDO does not give design standards for non-residential accessory structures. This is our building design standards chapter. The closest thing I could find were the discretionary guidelines that are in that chapter, so I did include those in your packet. What we are seeing on the screen right now are some pictures of the buildings that are on site. The DRB did recommend to approve the 2 accessory structures as presented to the board, as seen in these pictures, as they are temporary in nature and not unattractive. The board also recommended that the structures go through the established permitting process and noted that any change in use of the property will require additional DRB review. The council does have the option to follow the DRB recommendation or the option to reject the DRB recommendation. And I'm going to open this up to any questions for myself.
Question for Andrew?
So currently, these buildings are in violation because they're on the property line. Am I correct, Andrew?
Where the buildings currently sit seem to be in violation of a 10-foot setback for accessory structures in the HB district. So if this request is approved, the applicant will have to move those buildings to be 10 feet from that side property line.
And they built these buildings before they came to the DRB. Am I correct?
The buildings were sitting there prior to the DRB reviewing it. We do have an application on file from Mr. Ellis, dated back in June, and any discussion that happened prior to July 12th, my date of arrival, I can't comment on what.
Those buildings were up before that, Andrew.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
And they do not have any permit from the county.
No, the way the permit process works is the town would give zoning permission prior to the county issuing a permit. So part of any non-single-family residential building being permitted is the DRB council facade process. So at this point in time, they have no approved zoning from the town, which if you were to approve this request, we could approve the zoning if those buildings were moved 10 feet from the property line. And then at that point, he could take his zoning approval, go to the county for his building permits.
So we have to do all that before he can go for permitting. Is that correct?
That's right. Staff won't issue a zoning clearance until we get approval from this board that they're okay with the design of those structures.
I'm glad you said that because that was going to be my next question. So if we agree upon it's going to stay as metal buildings, correct?
That's right. If you agree upon it, it's basically the buildings you see out there are going to stay. However, we will require him to move those 10 feet from the side property line.
Okay.
And Andrew, we could require that they move them back before we approve it. Am I also correct?
We could require them that staff does not issue a zoning clearance until the buildings are moved 10 feet from that side property line.
Yeah, my concern, is that if we give them, if we say we approve this, and since they've already, I feel like in error saying that Jonathan gave them the right to put that buildings there, and I just don't, the Jonathan Wells I know would not have told them to put that on the property line. And that tells me that they'll take this approval tonight, because we're approving only the facade, the metal building, that, well, the council approved it, and it'll be like the building over on West and Rumpel Street, that'll be forever and never move, because they'll just keep dragging on, they've already got what they needed, was that piece. And so my concern is that we approve this piece of it, even though I have no problem with what DRB did with the building, I just think somehow we probably ought to think about tabling this until they get their ducks in a row.
Sure, and I don't think that's an unwise choice. I will say if you did approve it and the buildings were not moved, we do have an open violation case. With the submittal of the permit, it kind of stayed that violation. However, if they're not moved, that violation case will continue and code enforcement will continue to.
But don't we have other violations against them also?
We may. The only one I was aware of was with this metal building. At least that's the only one that's come in front of me.
So there would be some enforcement mechanism.
Yeah, mainly, it turns into fines on the property owner.
Other questions for Andrew? Okay, we will now consider the request for approval. Is there such a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we table our approval until they move buildings.
Second.
Okay. That was in the form of a motion, I
Yes.
take. Okay. Motion's on the floor that we table this request for approval until the buildings are moved within, away from the 10-foot setback. Is that?
On approval from Andrew, after final review, and he goes down there and makes sure.
Andrew has verified it? Okay.
Am I hearing that if the buildings are moved to 10 feet off the property line, council is okay moving forward with the facade design? Is that what I'm
No, then
understanding?
we'll come back and.
We'll come back.
Make a decision.
Okay, so we'll come back once those buildings are
Moved.
meeting the 10-foot setback.
Right.
Okay.
Motion's on the floor, received a second. Any other question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the consideration for Design and Review Board reappointments, terms expiring November 13th, 2021. Mr. Harry Hap Williams, 3-year term. Mr. Darrell Nance, also a 3-year term. Ms. Davis?
As you said, there are two reappointments for your consideration tonight, Mr. Williams and Mr. Nance. Their terms are to expire on November 13th. If reappointed, each would be serving the additional 3-year term.
Okay. Is there a motion on the floor to accept the appointment of Mr. Williams and Mr. Nance to 3-year terms?
I make a motion to accept Mr. Williams and Nance for your term.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made, received a second. Any question or comment? All those in favor say aye. Don't be too enthused. All those opposed? Okay, hearing none, motion passes. We will now move into official reports and committee comments. I'll start with council, starting to my left. Mr. Harris.
I'd just like to mention I was on the virtual meeting with the Board of Delegates for our Central Carolina Council of Government. And one of the areas that we did make a motion on, and because we're hearing a lot of things about traffic issues around here, in the whole 12-county region, they're projecting in the next 2 decades, we're going to have a 50% increase of people in this area, which is from Lincoln to David County, all the way to Charlotte and up to here to Iredell County. And have asked, and we voted last night to partner, what we call Connect Beyond, where the Central Carolina Council of Government will partner with the Charlotte Area Transportation Study to look at expanded mobility choices to relieve strain on roads and streets in all these areas. And part of it's light rail, some of it's sidewalks, bikes, paths, and then buses. To somehow they can have a regional community choice program of increasing public transportation to relieve some of the strain that's happening not just to Troutman, but to all the towns around this area, all the way down to Charlotte. Where Charlotte pushes out, all this traffic gets in all these places. So they're proposing to start looking at that, and it would be a regional fare structure so that you wouldn't just pay Charlotte's rates. It'd be all where everybody would have some control on each area, have control on that. And it says growth in Charlotte's impacting everyone, and so they recognize they can't just look at the mobility for Charlotte. They got to look at all these areas and how to get people back to these areas and quit overloading these roads. And so, anyhow, they're doing that over the next few years, and they're probably looking for different committees and everything. But they did the partnership and started that forward. So it's traffic's not just in Troutman; it's all over this whole area. And at least Central Carolina Council of Government is working to try to do something.
Ms. Harris?
My comment actually is directed to the gentleman who was speaking earlier, so I hope he's watching, but I still wanted to make a comment. I thought it was ironic that he mentioned that children not having anything to do. He was talking about the crime. I sat in an hour-long meeting yesterday. We talked about just that. But the one thing we came back to was parenting. We came back to parents finding things for their kids to do, getting them involved in sports, church, different things like that. And a lot of the kids who we have found were in situations, it was because they weren't being parented correctly. I hope that made sense. But my husband and I have 2 children, and we keep them involved in sports and different things like that just so they won't get into trouble. So I cannot place the blame on anybody else for my children not doing right. They're not perfect. They're gonna do things, but I just wanted to say that piece there, that a lot of times it comes back to making sure that we as parents are doing right. And I'm sitting here, and you see my name as a town council member, but I'm sitting here as a parent as well. And I wouldn't, as a town council member, take something away from children so that they couldn't, do something in our town. If I did, it would be mainly because of their safety, but it wouldn't be just to take something away from children. So I just wanted to make that statement, and I hope the gentleman is listening, but that's just to all of the residents. And I have mentioned from time to time about things in the middle of our town. I've mentioned recreation centers, not just for the children, but for seniors and for others, homeschool children as well, to have something to do in our town. Not saying that they don't have anything to do, but we have considered other things for our children to do. I just didn't want it to be out there like we're just taking things away from children. So that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Now?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to wish all the candidates that are running for our local elections the best of luck. And if I could please, everybody go out and vote. Your vote really counts. If you're happy about things, vote. If you're unhappy about things, vote. But please, go out and vote, and I wish all the candidates the best of luck.
Thank you. Ms. Williams?
I'm sorry, I don't have anything,
Oh, okay.
but I do appreciate Ms. Harris saying what she did. Thank you very much.
Mr. Hinkle?
There was a reason that I made the motion, and I apologize that if it was made to where there was some confusion when we were talking about the consent agenda item number 4. But that was made because I have heard the past few days it went from crickets to all of a sudden I'm being contacted directly, indirectly, concerning the Troutman project, Troutman Logistics down Highway 21. That there was a community meeting this past Monday night. I had planned to attend that meeting, but was here at Town Hall virtually all day with taking care of town business, and by the time that meeting took place, I just was not in an intellectual place to where I could hear and really comprehend, and I was, a situation where I just was not able to make the meeting, and I hate that I didn't. But I've heard several different reports of participation and lack of participation. So again, my intention is for no one to feel that they were not heard in this matter. That is a large project. It's going to affect Troutman. Some people will say horrendously. Others will say it's great economic growth. But we're all entitled to our opinions. Our job as council people is to protect the town, its citizens, and provide for the common good, if you will. And part of that is commercial growth, smart commercial growth. But again, not everybody's going to be happy. But having said that, if you feel like you have not been heard, there will be an upcoming planning and zoning meeting discussing this. Folks can attend and speak up, at least hear what's being discussed. And then, of course, it'll come to it'll come to us in December, and you'll have the same opportunity. So I'm trying to, my intentions are to give everyone in the community, not just the adjacent property owners in that area, a chance to be involved in this. It is an important project, and I want every voice heard. And so this is my reason for making that motion. And it is neither a condemnation or a hands up or a thumbs up approval. It's simply a way of me saying to the citizens, if you feel like you haven't been involved in this situation, don't get on social media and start to say something else, complain. Get involved and come to a meeting and let your voice be heard. That's the only way you're going to have things done according to your wishes, according to the citizens' wishes. That if you get involved, that doesn't mean that everything's going to be done exactly as you wish. Everybody, you can have your neighbor want it done one way, you want it done another. So obviously somebody's going to be a little disappointed. But again, as I say, get involved, stay on top of what's going on, and let your council know, your representatives know, what your thoughts are. And with that, I'll say to you, Mr. Mayor.
Just so that I try to, I think most of the comments that were made earlier, most have been covered. I would say that the issue of growing traffic, as we've already discussed, is absolutely an area that, like other surrounding towns and communities, we know is a concern, a lot of which we are trying to address as we approve some of our projects, as we look at our road conditions and make decisions on how we correct those issues. I appreciate the gentleman trying to bring some suggestions, if you will, to the concerns on Old Murdoch, many of which we have, as a staff, been looking at and trying to address. I know our chief here has looked at enforcement measures, so it's absolutely not an issue in terms of potential enforcement where it's applicable. I'm not sure about the right turn signs. Those would end up on 21 that would need approval by DOT, I would assume. I'm not sure about the weight limit request on Old Murdoch. Any idea, Lynn, how that would?
On the weight limit, I do not.
Yeah.
That might come from North Carolina Department of Motor Vehicles.
Okay.
They're the ones that enforce it.
Okay. Maybe it's something we can look at there in terms of the weight limit question. Take that up. Again, I think, just in general, the whole issue of traffic is absolutely in that corridor, something that we've been planning for with DOT at that intersection of Old Murdoch and 21. I don't know how many meetings we've had around that, but hopefully, we'll get some resolution as we continue to plan for our town streets and thoroughfares. Again, I don't want to reiterate anything that's already been said, other than, again, I don't know of anything that we've taken away from children, as Ms. Harris mentioned, that would be outside of safety concerns. When it comes to in our buildings, I don't think there's a government building in Idaho County that you can enter without wearing a mask. We have a small staff here, and we have been impacted by COVID like other people, and we're trying to ensure that our staff are safe, that you who attend the meetings continue to be safe. As I said in my opening comments, I am hopeful that we will be out of this soon. I am not fond of wearing the mask, but I will do it for the safety of others. So again, I appreciate that, and again, I appreciate his comments and any other public comments that were made. With that, I'll turn it over to anyone from the staff who wants to make comments. I know our town manager is out tonight, but any staff comments?
I'd just like to make a quick comment. We were given a grant from NCDOT to update, actually redesign, well overdue, our bicycle pedestrian plan. And we meant to have a community input meeting this Saturday with the Wicked 5K run. However, we know that was canceled, so we were unable to set up a tent for that event. However, we are having a virtual community input meeting on the plan Thursday, October 21st, 5:30 p.m. It will be held via Zoom. You can find the link to that on both the Planning Department Facebook page and the town's website.
I'm sorry, I did not pick up the plan. The grant was for what?
The bicycle and pedestrian plan.
Oh,
Bike ped.
very good. I did not understand. I thought there was another grant that I was not aware of.
Nope, just getting that
It's the
project
same
rolling.
grant that I'm aware of. Okay, thank you.
It's on the Planning Department Facebook page, and we have it under news on our town website.
Yeah, hopefully, folks will get an opportunity to join and provide some feedback. One of the things that we've consistently talked about is how do we provide a bike and ped thoroughfare that people feel safe on. And I know Andrew rides bike. So again, we want to make sure that he is safe and can get back and forth to work without incident. And we want to make sure that that's the case for all citizens. So again, appreciate you all putting that on and applying for that grant and getting that grant for us. If there's nothing else from council or staff, the next item on our agenda is a closed session pursuant to North Carolina General Statutes 143, 318, 11A4 to discuss economic development. I would ask our attorney to be present, as well as Ms. Davis, and who else we need? See Jen in the back. I saw her, but yes, our economic development folks to participate. For everyone else, thank you. Have a great evening.